I use food to escape reality. I use food to forget my stresses. The one thing I've realized is fasting brings all of that stuff to the table because, one, when I do start to feel sad or I feel the problems coming in, I can't eat to escape that reality. I have to keep it in my head and let it do its thing. But I'm also realizing that coming to terms with those issues instead of finding a way to escape from it is helpful for me because today, even when I was going for my walk and I just sat there while I took a break, I thought about the things that have been depressing me or issues that I've had. As much as I want to escape them, I think facing them head on, just like I said last week, like battling my inner demons, I do think it's important that we don't always just run away from things because that's who I am. I've been going to therapy now for over a year to fix a lot of these issues. Day one, I weighed in at 217.8 pounds. Yesterday, I weighed in at 199.6 pounds. So an 18.2 pound drop, 18 pounds in 13 days. When I saw it go under 200, I was like, how did this happen so fast? I surprised myself. It was nice. I mean, it is nice. For me, it shows that the work is paying off, that the fasts are working. You'll notice the later refeeds, I gained 4 pounds, 2 pounds, and then yesterday I gained 2.6 pounds after that refeed. But I'm never worried about the weight that I gain from these refeeds because I know that the fasts will bring myself back down and then some, where I end up losing weight. And that is why I do rolling fasts because I fast for a period of time where I know I will lose weight despite how much I eat during my refeed. And that's something that you need to apply to your fasting refeed regimen. And I will say this until I'm blue in the face, but just because I do 90-hour fasts, just because I do it, just because I eat 7,000 calories in a refeed does not mean that's what you have to do. I have to keep saying that because I know most of you know that. I know most of you watch me long enough to know that you don't have to do what I'm doing. I think there are some people who probably want to do what I'm doing because they either need to lose a good amount of weight, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just want people to understand that this is my fasting journey. This is how I'm doing it. Just because I'm doing this 163-hour fast doesn't mean that you should be doing one. I mean, unless you want to do it along with me and you think you can get that far and you need to lose that weight and you can do it healthily, please, by all means. Really, the point is if you are looking to lose weight, find the hours of fasting that work for you that can make you lose weight based on what your refeed looks like. Simple math, if the average person burns about 2,000 calories a day, that means that if that person ate in that day 2,000 calories, then they're probably going to maintain their weight. If you're somebody who eats 3,000 calories a day, but you only burn 2,000, well, then that probably means that doing something like an alternate day fast, like a 36-hour fast or 42 is what I do. That's how you find that balance. I'm just saying this because I think it's really important to know that you don't have to imitate what I'm doing. I think you just need to learn the concept of fasting and figuring out what works for you. For those that are new, for those that might not know the entire story, 4 years ago, I started doing these rolling fasts and I was able to go from 220 down to under 125 pounds. Trust me, I'm not planning to go under 125 this time. My goal is around 140 pounds. I'm also short. For those that don't know, I'm 5'3". 140 isn't a bad weight to be at my height. I lost all that weight and then I did that for almost 2.5 years. And then I gained it all back. The time frame of me gaining that all back, I couldn't tell you for sure. Maybe I'd look through some pictures that I might have of myself, but trust me, I wasn't taking many pictures of myself as I gained that weight back. But I would say that I probably gained all that weight back under a year. I wouldn't be surprised if I gained all that weight back in under 6 months. I don't know for sure. I never really checked. I never like logged it down. I was too embarrassed and too shameful to even think of looking at those numbers. So I gained all the weight back right right here. I've lost some of it now, obviously. One of the things that I think is really important that I've learned from this is embracing being imperfect, embracing being happy with who you are today, loving yourself today. That's taken a lot of therapy to realize, but I do realize that a lot more today than I did a couple years ago. A good number of people ask, like, what happened? Or you might not even ask it, but you might be thinking, like, how did you gain the 75, 80 pounds back? And the easiest way to really give that answer is I stress ate. That was the number one thing. When I started losing this weight, I was in a different place. COVID was happening. I had just moved back from LA and I was doing freelance work. And the stress was a lot different because the work I did, I really enjoyed. And I pretty much because I work freelance, I controlled what I did, who I worked with. And, even if I didn't like working with them, it was short lived because you know what? Like, I don't work for you. But what ended up happening, is I feel like I started taking on too much. And so in March of 2021, and I was still fasting at that time. I was still active on my channel. I was active on my channel until July of 2021. But in March of 2021, I had gotten a full-time job. And that job that I was at, it wasn't stressful at first. And I might have mentioned that in a past stream, but eventually it got more stressful than I imagined. I felt I just felt very pressured. Um, I felt like I wasn't good at what I was doing. I was doubting myself. And I just none of it felt good. And stress eating is really kind of what happened. I worked really hard at that job, to the point where, I got promoted and then I got into, I started off as like a social media manager and then an e-commerce manager. And then I ended up, getting a job with a different company being a director of e-commerce. And like, these are all grand titles that paid really well, but it also came with a ton of stress. It came with a lot of, um, it came with a lot of deadlines. It came with a lot of expectations. And I just don't think I was able to handle it properly. And that's honestly the best way that I can kind of share how a lot of this happened was stress, like stress eating. And so when I put shame here, I will share that one of the hardest parts was the shame that I faced gaining that weight after losing it all and being accountable on my channel. You know, I felt like, okay, well, okay, Jerome, you gained 8 pounds, let's say. Let's just fast until you lose those 8 pounds. But I think the work that I was doing it completely it destroyed me mentally. And then I stress ate, which destroyed me physically. And that shame of coming back and admitting that was really hard for me. I think my ego then, because I was on top of my game, right? Like I knew exactly what to do and teach people how to do it, and then to be the one that fails was very hard for me to admit. And I'm very sorry for that. I think about if I could do it all over again, but to be honest with you, I would have probably done the same thing because it was just really hard. But that's kind of why I'm back here now, you know, getting laid off at that director position was probably one of the best things to happen to me because it kind of gave my life back. I at one point I decided, well, no, you know what? When I got laid off, I was going to go back into marketing, right? I was like, I can find another job doing this. Um, but what ended up happening is I decided to pause that and switch careers again and really focus on photography because it's something I really enjoy. And I might have said this before, but photography is the reason that I started getting out again because you can't shoot really a ton of interesting stuff inside an apartment holed up. And I will say that too about my work was completely remote. I mean, I would have to travel every now and then, but for the most part, I was at home. I got to do whatever I wanted when it came to eating, and I didn't even have to leave my door, right? You just call delivery or do whatever. And I think being holed up by yourself, like it's not healthy. And now working as a photographer, I have to, you know, like I have to work with people every day. I have to go out every day. I have to be on my feet every day. I mean, yeah, but I love it. I enjoy it. It's something I really, really like doing. And mentally for me, I think it's a lot easier than the pressure I had in my past job. So, uh, that weight gain, again, this is why it is so mental versus just physical. Fasting is obviously a mental game, but the stresses of your life can mentally throw you off balance and get you in a position where with someone like me who is an eating disorder, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. Um, when I talk about depression here, I have I think I've dealt with depression for a pretty long time. I can't remember exactly when I started feeling, depressed to the point where I couldn't talk to people, where I would shut myself off. But um, it's one of the things that I regret in my life is I mean, not being depressed and not having depression, but how I would deal with a lot of things, and a lot of that would be shutting people off or shutting down. I I need to reiterate. I don't when I get depressed, I don't shut people off. I shut down to the point where I can't really just I don't want to talk. I don't want to see people. This is also combined with like feeling really shitty about myself with the weight gain, and it's for me it's broken a ton of relationships, a ton of friendships. I mean, even work opportunities, I've let work um I've let work go by the wayside because I started to gain weight and I felt embarrassed. And I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This is how deep rooted my issues are when it comes to not only eating, but the way I look at myself and the way that I accept myself. That even gaining 5, 10 pounds from the beginning, right, doesn't seem like a lot, but for me, it's detrimental. Where mentally I look at that and I think that the world is over. Um, and that's something that, you know, not only do I talk about in therapy, not only is it something that I talk about in therapy, but it's something that I'm trying to be a lot more mindful about today. This is not the first time. And I think the one thing that I'm really trying to do now with myself, I'm 42 years old, right? I'm 42. I'm going to be 43 in what's today? The 19th. Today's my dad's birthday. My dad passed away a while ago, but anyway, happy birthday to my dad. I'm gonna be 43 December 3rd, so less than was that about 2 weeks, something like that. No, it's 2 weeks from now exactly. Um, and I don't want to keep cycling through this. I don't want to keep losing weight and gaining weight and losing weight and gaining weight. One thing that I want to talk about too is, you know, it's so hard for me because I try not to be like salty about some of the comments, but then I read the comment And it's not even being salty, but it actually makes me think about, well, you know what? There's some truth to that. And I know someone had wrote a comment about um how did they say it? I mean, I think it was more or less like you need to have a balanced lifestyle. You can't do these fasts for that long. It's not sustainable. So let me kind of talk about that too. Yes, I know that long fasts like I'm doing are not sustainable. Um 90 plus hour fasts, I can only do that for so long before I hit my goal weight because I lose weight when I do them, that eventually I'm going to have to slow that down. For those that don't remember, when I hit my goal weight, and remember, I hit my goal weight December of 2020, right? December of 2021. Yeah, because that's when I turned 40. December of 2021, I had hit 124 pounds. So I was way lower than I should have been. But I hit my goal weight then and I kept it off for like another 6 or 7 months after hitting that goal weight. And for those that don't remember, as I was doing those 90-hour fasts, I eventually transitioned down to 65-hour fasts. And then when I hit goal weight, those 65-hour fasts ended up being around 42 hours or pretty much alternate day fasting because that's what I could do with the amount I ate. I actually was trying to change the way I was eating. So I think a lot of people remember me for the guy. I think a lot of people remember me as the guy that did super long fasts and then ate crazy amounts of food, which is not untrue. But if you followed me long enough, you would have also realized that that changed as time went on. I was trying to lower that number while also controlling how much I ate. So it wasn't like this was going to last forever. So I just kind of want to point that out there. The second point I want to put too, when people talk about having a balanced lifestyle, again, it's not that I don't think about that because, yeah, balance in anything is really important. But fasting is the only thing that I've ever done. These rolling fasts are the only thing I've ever done that has kept the weight off for me. It's not like I was morbidly obese my entire life and have never tried to lose weight or have not tried to lose weight, successfully lost some of it, but would gain it back. So this is me failing and losing all that weight and gaining it all back. This isn't the first time. It's probably not I mean, it's the first time when I lost that much amount of weight and then gained it all back because I've never been at that weight before. But I have always gained the weight back, lost it, gained it, lost it, gained it. I've tried different ways of eating. I've tried different kinds of diets. I'm doing what works for me. That's really what it comes down to. I'm doing what works for me. So for a lot of people who might say, well, you need to do X, Y, and Z, you need to eat X, Y, and Z, or this is how you need to eat. Maybe that's how you need to eat because it works for you. But when I'm doing what I'm doing, and when I tell you it works for me, again, I don't think I've ever told anyone they need to fast for as long as I do. I don't think I've ever told anyone, hey, you need to eat pumpkin pie for dessert every time you refeed and a big salad. I don't, that's not me. I'm just sharing, you know, what I've been doing that has given me success, prolonged success. I mean, even though I failed and I gained all that weight back, that was the longest run I've kept weight off in my entire life. In my entire 42 plus years, that was, well, at the time I was 40, but you know, that's what worked for me. Number one, I can't promise I'm not going to gain the weight back. I mean, that's the reality of it. I think the really big question is what have I learned since then that's going to help me, you know, keep it off? Like what am I going to do that's going to keep keep me being healthy, right? When people say that fasting isn't sustainable or that I failed, that I gained the weight because I was fasting for too long and I was eating the way I was doing, like that has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with like the way I use stress eating to cope. Like that was my issue. That was what I let happen, and I took no accountability for it. I just let it happen and I let it continue to happen because that dopamine release of binging it was just so strong. I mean, it still is strong, but that's why I fast, because it's the only way that I can turn that faucet off, right? When people tell me to eat a certain way or they say only have this many calories, I'm like, dude, I don't work that way. I'm wired differently. I'm literally wired differently. It just does not work that way for me. It might work that way for you. It might work that way for many other people, but for me, it doesn't. And I don't know what's so wrong about doing what I'm doing. Like I feel like I'm doing so many things right to lose weight and to exercise and to sleep well that I can't be completely perfect. I mean, if you're looking for that perfect thing, if you're looking for a perfect way of eating and exercising and whatever, I mean, there's so many other weight loss or whatever influencers who are out there. Like you don't have to, like I'm not that person. I'm not going to be that person for you. I will never be. Um because I'm not perfect. I'm not, and I'm good with that. I am good with that.